Hi, I'm Phil Hinkle, and I'm here today with streaming media producer to review a light called the Switronix TorchLED Bolt 220R. First, let me show you the old version. I've got the original Bolt 200 LED. It was equivalent basically to 200 watts of output, ran on a Sony compatible battery, and I had an external battery hookup that ran off of a gel cell like you put in an electric wheelchair, and I could run that thing for hours and hours. With a Sony battery, it'll run you a good 90 minutes to 2 hours. Runs real good, puts out about 200 watt equivalent in an LED. It's great because it had the 3200 and 5600 adjustable, so you could adjust the dim on it, you could adjust the color temperature. It was a great light. And then what did Switronix decide to do? They made a 220W, which increased the output by about 10% and gave you just a few more watts of output and made it a little bit cleaner, and it was a nice light. I never got to try that one, but now they're about to release the new Switronix TorchLED Bolt 220R. And you see it comes with this little toy gizmo gadget thing that goes with it. But it's really not. It's a remote. They've taken the same form factor, the same size as the 220W, and they've put a remote on it. That is pretty neat. And man, is it usable. You just turn it on, hit the button, and you can turn it off. You can turn it on. You can see it. I'm not going to point at the camera because it'll blind you. You can adjust the dimming, the brightness. It's just a really nice improvement over the 220W. If you've used the 220W and need another light, this might be just the light for you. When you get it, it comes with a really nice instruction manual. It's one whole page. It doesn't look like much, but it covers everything you need to know how to use it, including how to hook up as many as 9 of these lights to one remote. There's a way to pair it between the light and the remote, and you can run up to 9 of these off of one remote. And if you're in an area where you lose your range, you just pop the little antenna up and you can increase your range drastically. I tried this out at my house the other day. I stuck it over by my car, and I walked about 30-40 feet out with the antenna down, and it was still turning off and on. It hesitated a little bit at that distance. I put the antenna up and I walked all the way across the street to my neighbor's house, probably 150-200 feet away, and it was still working even in the bright sunlight. So it's pretty neat, and I think you'll find this is a really handy addition to the Switronix TorchLED Bolt LED light system. So anyway, that's enough talking about it. Let's see how it performs. We're not doing anything extremely scientific here with light meters or anything like that. But what I'd like to do is I'm just going to go over to a blank wall here at the house, and we're just going to point it at the wall and talk you through exactly what we're doing so you can see the throw. We're going to measure how far away from the wall we are so you can get an idea of how well it works. And we're going to run the color temperatures up and down and the brightness up and down and just kind of explain what we're doing while we're doing it to give you a general idea of how this light works. So let's get to it. Okay, here we are with our unscientific light test. We're in a room that is 10 wide with a 9-foot high ceiling. Our lights are exactly 10 feet back, so you can have a general idea of how big the room is and how well the light is throwing. The light in the room looks pretty full and evenly dispersed, although you may see a little bit of a brighter spot in the middle. Actually, right now you're seeing the old Switronix TorchLED Bolt 200 light. I'm going to turn that one off. I just want to show you the difference in the brightness. Here's the original 200 light, and here is the new 220R. You can see it is visibly brighter. It does seem to me to have a little bit more of a hot spot in the center, and it trails off a little bit more on the edges. But it is much brighter, and it works really well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the remote to change some of the settings. I'm going to dim it down. As you can see, it's dimming, 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 and it goes completely off. If I hit the brightness up, it goes up and it just gets brighter and brighter. Now, if I want to change my color temperature, right now we've got it full bore with all the 3200 lights and all the 5600 lights on. I'm going to dim it down to the 3200. You can see that goes to the color temperature for an indoor. If I press the 5600 button on my remote, you can see it's changing color to the 5600. Again, I'm going to go back to the 3200. You can definitely see it changing. And back to the 5600. Going to dim it down a little bit and turn it off. It's really that simple. Okay, here we are outside. I just wanted to give you a little range test of the light. As you can see, about 30 feet, 40 feet down the way, you can see the light, and if I press the remote, it comes on, and it doesn't quite go off, but if I lift the antenna up, because I am pretty far away, then it works just fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start walking towards the camera a little bit. I'm going to walk a little farther. As you can see, it's still coming on and off. Even this far away, I'm still coming toward the camera. I'm probably, I would say, about 85, 90 feet away now. And you can see the light still comes on and off. I can dim it, turn it on, turn it off. Okay, we're going to get a little bit closer. I'm going to get right up here by my camera guy this time and see if it still works. By my loose calculations of my step length, we're about 80 paces away from me, and best I can guess, that's probably about 175 feet away. So let's try it now. We're going to press the off button, press the on button. We're going to dim it a little bit. We're going to brighten it up, off, on. Look at that. We're probably about 175 to 180 feet away, and it's still working great. That gives you an idea of what kind of range it is. So that should give you a pretty good idea of what kind of range you can get out of this light. One thing to note is, because I was 180 feet away and I was able to use my remote to turn the light on and off, it's not using the infrared technology to do it like some remotes do. It's got to be using some sort of radio frequency. That means you're going to be a little more stable, and you'll be able to use it outdoors as well as indoors with no problems. Okay, this test is done. Let's go back in and wrap it up. In closing, I just want to touch on a few last things. First, this remote. Way to go, Switronix. You hit it out of the park with this little guy. It is awesome. Once you use it a few times, you're going to fall in love with it. Wonder how you ever live without it. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the battery runtime. The marketing materials from Switronix say if you use the Sony 770 battery, you'll get approximately 90 minutes or an hour and a half of runtime. Well, I don't have a 770 battery. I borrowed a Sony battery from a colleague because I don't have Sony cameras anymore, and he gave me a 960 battery. Except this isn't a Sony branded 960 battery. This is one of those generics, and you know those are kind of like sketchy sometimes in their runtime. Well, let me tell you what happened. I put this in at my house on my desk, I turned it on, and I just looked at my clock, see what time it was, and I let it run, and I let it run, and I let it run. We got to 90 minutes, and it's like, okay, are you going to give up on me? You're going to give up on me? It kept running. Once I passed 2 hours, I didn't care anymore. I just turned it off and recharged my battery and went on. So I got in excess of 2 hours runtime on a 960 generic battery. So having said that, you get a Sony battery on there, who knows how long it might run. That's about all for this review. In closing, I just have to say, this is a great little light. I'm very impressed with what Switronix came out with on this. The remote just puts it right over the top. If you're looking for a new light for off-camera lighting or even on-camera lighting, it comes with a cold shoe mount so you can stick it right on your camera. This would be a good choice to think about. It lights well. It's got about a 220 watt equivalent, and I think you'll be very happy with the performance, especially once you add that remote control in there. For now, signing off for Streaming Media Producer, you have a good one.